Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy, Nate Weitzer, on the East Coast. And we are looking at a pretty full Wednesday night slate here in the early NBA season, Nate. In this game, we are taking a look at the Spurs back in Minnesota. Still haven't left there. Home and home set for the squads. Spurs +9 or so. I'll let you get into those lines here in just a minute. Do want to make sure you're liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We've got a couple game videos for you today and our player props video. We're bringing you each and every weekday of this regular season. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have all of our great written content for you guys all season long, and our odds finder tool that you can go ahead and use to shop all of those NBA lines and player props to the best of your ability across those U.S. sports books. Nate, let's get into that big Wednesday night slate tonight in the NBA.
Yeah, after a week of regular season action, I think we're getting a little bit of a grasp on where teams stand, but of course, still plenty to be decided as we move through the season, and I'll move through these lines real quick here. We got Cavs +8 at the Magic. The Hawks -7 at home against Detroit, with the Pistons on a back-to-back there. -7 in Detroit, excuse me. The other game we break down, Nets are +3.5 at Milwaukee, total 232 there. We have a full video up about that one. The Hornets are +7.5 at the Knicks. Sixers -1.5 at Raptors. Pacers +7.5 at Bulls. This game, we got Spurs +9 at the Wolves. The total's crept up, Josh, from 232 to 235 in a few minutes. So that's gaining some steam. Rockets +7 at Jazz. Lakers +5.5 at the Nuggets. Still looking for their first win are the Lakers. And then the Heat -2 at the 4-0 Portland Trailblazers. Don't look now. But we're staying away from that one. We're looking at this Spurs-Wolves game. And if Devin Vassell is not able to go tonight, I think you'd see the spread climb to double digits. But I'm having a little trouble doubting the Spurs at this juncture. I mean, the thing is, though, they've been sneaking up on people, right? They snuck up on the Sixers. They looked like maybe the worst team in the NBA in their opener, but then people aren't taking them seriously, thinking they're tanking, and so they won 3 in a row, kind of just sneaking up. But they're not going to sneak up on Minnesota for the second straight game. The thing is, Minnesota's not that good. I mean, they made the big move for Rudy Gobert, and they lost 4 rotational players in the process. 4 glue guys. I mean, 2 particularly important, I think, in Pat Bev and Jared Vanderbilt, who's a quicker, more switchable big that you can put alongside Cat and play a little bit of better defense. I mean, the defense hasn't been the problem, though. It's the spacing. It's the offense with Rudy and Cat on the floor, which was always the concern. And with Anthony Edwards not really coming out of the gates the way people might expect him to. That being said, I think this is get right time for their offense, which is shooting 29% from 3. That's not going to last. I think this was the best 3-point shooting team in the league last year, right? The Spurs, yeah, and they went over at a ridiculous rate at home, scored the most points in the league in home games. The total, like I said, has already crept up 3 points, and I'm a little nervous about the Spurs continuing what they did, but their defense down the stretch has been abysmal, particularly the fourth quarter, giving up 36 points per game, most in the league by far. So whether you take the Wolves team total, I think they get 120 tonight. I think they try to clap back on that end of the floor. And I wouldn't necessarily take them to cover 10 points because I don't think that they figured out their rotations and their spacing yet. But I think that they do find a rhythm on offense against a Spurs team that is, rebuilding. Certainly doesn't really have a bunch of wing stoppers in any sense of the word. So there is opportunities here for Minnesota to push the pace a little bit more and get going. It's crazy that they're 9th in pace and they're still getting 103 possessions per game, and the Spurs 3rd in pace. So I understand the over here, but I think, what I lean towards is the Wolves bouncing back on offense. And if I'm pressed to pick the spread, I think the Spurs can cover double digits here and at least keep it close, if not, pull out another stunner.
Yeah, it's crazy that we were about to start this video, talk about this total, and we hadn't realized since we started recording and really talking about other stuff this morning, that spread that total had already jumped from what we liked it at about 232 or so, all the way up to 235 in a very short amount of time. I mean, look, the 9 points is like, I'm also just like, I'm going to take that until the Timberwolves show me they're actually like, they can play better than the Spurs. Same concept as these teams that are struggling off the bat. The 76ers have another big game tonight after they lost to the Spurs recently, but finally got in the win column. But they have a big game tonight as well against the Raptors. That is, it's kind of like, all right, show me something. And this Timberwolves team is the same concept here with the Spurs. Like, show me something. And what I mean specifically is, show me that all these guys can play on offense at the same time. Show me that like Rudy Gobert isn't messing everything up with Karl Anthony Towns. Tell me that Ant Edwards is going to come back and look like the explosive player that he was last year. Those are all the things that I'd be waiting to see, because none of that stuff is going on right now. Kat and Rudy on the floor, taking a quick look at their 2-man lineup. Not that great. It is a plus net rating of about 2, but that offensive rating is at 109 for the two of them when they're on the floor together. It's not good enough for a team that last year relied on scoring, and just, you score 128, we'll score 132 if we want to win this game. So you still have to like a total. I think Vassell being out does hurt you from the standpoint that you don't have that much scoring on San Antonio to stick around. He's one of the 2, maybe 3 guys that you feel comfortable being able to score 20 plus points on this team. Outside of Pirtle and Keldon Johnson, it's a pretty thin roster. Obviously, Josh Primo trying to come off the bench and be that spark as well. But I think mostly for San Antonio, what you're looking at this season is like you're talking about. They're just playing with a ton of pace, and they're playing pretty good defense. They're getting steals, and they're at least getting out in transition that way, which is what they need, because that half court offense doesn't really scare you. There's no one that really you feel that can take another player off the dribble one-on-one. They really don't have a single guy to break down the defense like that. It's really passing, which is why they're doing well. They're number 1 in assist percentage. They have 5 guys scoring at least 12 points a game. Minnesota allowing the most assists per game. As we say, again, last season, they were also that bad on defense. There's no communication there. Rudy has not come in and shown that he's able to impact anything outside of just keeping people out of the paint, which he's able to do. But that wing defense is so atrocious right now for Minnesota. You can't feel good about it. So I think, for getting right in this game for Minnesota, what does that look like? They have to take care of the ball, for sure. I mean, they have the 5th most turnovers, 5th lowest assist percentage, leading to the 5th worst assist to turnover ratio. Unsurprisingly, they allow the 2nd most fast break points. So it's just, obviously you're going to allow fast break points when you turn the ball over 18 times a game or 16 times a game, whatever they're at right now. So second chance points, all that kind of stuff, they've got to cut it off. And I don't trust them to do that to the tune of beating this team by 9 points. The Spurs are taking care of the ball on their end. They're covering, in the spots that they need to. And it's not that hard to cover this Timberwolves spacing right now, which is just, like I said, non-existent and really atrocious. So points, yes, I think this game definitely goes 230. Once you start talking about 235, I get a little bit nervous, but I think I'm taking the 9 points here, Nate, and then I'm actually going to watch this one a little bit live, bet that total if I can, and see if that first quarter starts a little bit slowly or fast, and kind of make my predictions from there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense based on what I said with the fourth quarter scoring versus the Spurs, and the expectation that, Pop kind of joked like, "Oh, we're not even coming on Wednesday." Like, he's having fun with this season right now. He understands the ebb and flow of the NBA, and that the Wolves are going to be gunning for them at this point. I mean, there are other ways to just bet on the offense bouncing back, or at least maintaining what they did on Monday. And D'Lo, who's taken on a lot more ball handling responsibilities, playmaking this year, and kind of carrying it early without Ant. He's only at 18.5 points, nearly even money there. I don't mind taking the over there. He went for 25, 5, and 7 in this Monday matchup. D'Lo 25 points again in the win is plus 400, or about plus 200 for 20 points in the win. I think you could sprinkle on both of those. Or, Cat double again. He has put up some big lines against the Spurs. He is a self-proclaimed leader, as you like to talk about, and as he likes to talk about himself in the third person, basically. And he went out there in the post game and talked about how Anthony Edwards needs to clean up his diet and be in better shape and play better, which is, fair enough. But I don't see why you need to say that on the podium. Right. But now he has to go back up his leadership with a nice performance here at home if he is the leader of this team. So I think looking at Cat and D'Lo Anthony Edwards has not had good numbers against the Spurs historically. I don't know if it's what they do with the coaching staff or what Keldon Johnson and company can do on the court to actually contain him. But I think the Spurs are going to be kind of an easy target for point guards all year without DeJounte as they mix in those young guys, Primo and Trey Jones. So I think D'Lo has another solid game here. That's why I look at his props and the Wolves winning because of his offensive production.
Yeah, no, I'm with it. And then a couple other shooters, including obviously adding Dougie McDermott, playing pretty well. So I think there's some things like on the Spurs. It's not a great roster, man, but there's Keldon Johnson and Vassell, Devin Vassell, they're playing above their pay grade for sure. And Pirtle's, shooting 60% from the field. So if Pirtle's, if he's going to play that well, maybe he's not going to be the subject of a trade later this season. We'll see. Either way, 9 points, too much in this one after a game where they just beat the T-Wolves by 9 points. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. Also got our great player props video up for you guys today. So until we see you next, happy betting.